Say this epic morning prayer now, transform your day with God's power at 3 a.m. The clock ticked ominously in the shadowy room, its hands pointing steadfastly to the witching hour. There was something electric in the air, a potent mix of anticipation and dread. At 3 a.m., the veil that separates the spiritual world from our own thinned. Whispers floated through the night like secrets carried on the wind. What if tonight was the night that destiny collided with your every hope and fear? Above, an unsettling haze rolled in, draped across the moon like a shroud. It twisted into shapes that danced, shifting and morphing into figures that could send shivers down the spine. In that strange stillness, tones echoed from the past, half-remembered prayers desperately clinging to the edges of the mind. Can you feel it? The weight of unfulfilled wishes and yearnings? Children's laughter seemed to vibrate just out of sight, mingling with the distant tolling of a bell, a warning that something extraordinary was about to unfold. In this seemingly ordinary town, people had begun to notice slick, crimson marks appearing on the sidewalks. The townsfolk murmured with hushed tones, plagued by that gnawing feeling of unease. Every drop seemed to beckon those who dared to embrace the unknown, the brave souls ready to speak the words uttered deep in dreams. Hearts raced, some unsteady hands trembling as they fumbled to fetch their phones, anxiously scrolling through messages asking for help, healing, guidance. Suddenly, an ethereal glow flickered from an old, crumbling church at the edge of town. Was it a sign? Could it hold the answers that so many sought? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The moment hung heavy in the air, thick with tangible anticipation. Something was brewing, reaching toward the dawn with claws of fate. As townspeople gathered, drawn to that mysterious light, spells of prayer erupted from their lips, unaware of the storm gathering in their hearts. What would happen when the clock struck 4? Would their hidden cries for freedom unleash a torrent of blessings or unleash chaos? What awaited them, hidden beneath that flickering glow? Only one thing was certain: the clock was ticking, and time was running out. The atmosphere crackled as the townsfolk edged closer to the flickering light emanating from the church. Voices blended, forming a chaotic chorus of prayers and fears that reverberated through the night. Shadows stretched, swaying like phantoms, as the clock's minute hand inched toward the hour. "Do you really think it'll work?" a voice called out, high-pitched and trembling. It was Susie, her face pale under the dim light, eyes wide with uncertainty. "Of course it will. It has to," replied David, a local skeptic turned believer, clutching a worn Bible as if it were a lifeline. The faith in his voice masked his own fraying nerves. As the crowd pressed forward, the church doors cracked open with an unnatural creak, revealing a fog inside that coiled like a living thing. The beam of light pulsed, dancing wildly, and in that moment of indecision, every heart leaped. Would this be their salvation or the beginning of their undoing? The flicker intensified, casting eerie shadows against stone and timber. "Come on. Let us go in. We can't turn back now," someone urged. One by one, the collective dread twisted into courage, as the townsfolk stepped over the threshold into the unknown. Inside, the air was thick, heavy with the scent of burnt candles and ancient wood. The altar was shrouded in glimmering light, revealing an ornate tome open to a page inscribed with glowing text, a prayer pulsating softly as if it breathed. "What is it?" whispered Jenna, pushing her way to the front. The rest of the crowd followed, mesmerized. I think it's the prayer," murmured another newcomer, eyes full of wonder. "The one we all need to say." Yet, even as she spoke, a chill snaked down her spine, a sense that unseen eyes watched from the shadows. Outside, night turned sinister, heavy clouds swirling ominously overhead, crackling with unspent energy. The church felt alive. The walls seemed to pulsate with an unseen heartbeat, thudding in time with their fears and hopes. Suddenly, laughter echoed from the rafters, high and childlike, sending shivers racing down the spines of all present. "Is someone in here?" David called, his voice quavering. Silence answered, thick and suffocating. Then, like a flash of lightning, the mood shifted. An unseen force swept through the congregation, igniting a palpable sense of urgency. Anxiety morphed into determination. The townsfolk grasped luck and uncertainty in equal measure, ready to lay it all bare. "Let us pray," Jenna cried, her voice slicing through the tension. Together. Their voices rose in a powerful crescendo, weaving together each hesitant whisper, each desperate plea. But with every word spoken, the swirling fog deepened, twisting around their feet like a dark fog of despair and hope, and then, the ground shook beneath them, a low rumble that acted like a wake-up call from the very foundations of existence. Murmurs turned to gasps, and gasps escalated into terrified whispers. Just as the clock struck 4, an explosion of light erupted from the altar, blinding them all. Time itself felt suspended, their prayers hung mid-air like ungraspable dreams, vibrating with a promise that sparked both hope and terror. "Run!" Someone yelled, the command echoing through the chamber as the light coalesced into a figure, a magnificent, harrowing presence too overwhelming to describe. In that heartbeat, it became clear, their prayers had awakened something far more powerful than they ever imagined. What would the townsfolk do next facing the phenomenal force? Their fate hinged on an unthinkable decision lurking in the shadows, waiting to be chosen. The blinding light crackled, arching ominously like a whip through the air before collapsing into a writhing form. Panic swept through the congregation, people stumbled back, clutching each other. Jenna's heartbeat hammered in her ears as she steadied herself, eyes locked onto the radiant figure emerging from the glow. It was a creature beyond description, either divine or monstrous. Wings stretched wide, shimmering with ethereal energy, casting shadows that twisted and turned across the walls. The face was obscured, a swirling mist concealing any features, but the intensity of its presence was undeniable. It filled the space with an aura that resonated within each person, an unsettling mixture of warmth and chilling dread. "Who dares summon me?" The voice echoed like thunder, smooth yet jagged, wrapping everyone in its grip. Each syllable felt like a claw, clutching at their souls. David stepped forward, bravely clutching the Bible, his stance faltering but his voice rising above the fear. We prayed for help. Our town is in danger. Please, we need your guidance." The figure paused, and for a brief moment, silence erupted in tension. Shadows shifted, and the air was electric. Jenna felt that there was a price to pay for summoning such a force. The dark mist coiling around her ankles seemed to whisper warnings, tugging at her conscience. A low rumble of laughter filled the church, shaking the very foundations beneath them. "Help?" it mocked, such desperation woven through your hearts. "But what will you offer in return?" Gasps of horror escaped the lips of her neighbors. The fear in their eyes mirrored her own. This was a trade, a devastating bargain. "Anything," Jenna cried, her voice breaking, "we will give anything." The urgency twisted within her, a raw desperation to save those they loved, homes they cherished. "Anything?" The figure leaned in closer, and amidst the vibrant light and shadow, Jenna glimpsed a flicker of something human beneath the surface, a flicker of compassion. Suddenly, the ground vibrated more violently. Tiles cracked underfoot, churning with a deeper low that resonated with their pounding hearts. "You have awakened powers beyond your comprehension. I can protect your town, but the sacrifices they will weigh upon you." In that moment of chaos, Jenna felt an icy grip of despair. "What sacrifices?" she stammered, her voice breaking, the gravity of her choice hitting her like a sledgehammer. She could see it, the lives of their children, their families all teetering on the edge of an unknown promise. "Your fears, your doubts, they will become my strength. Trade your souls for safety." Choose wisely, and decide who among you will carry the burden of this power." The figure pulsed with energy as it spoke, the desperation in the room thickening. The townsfolk exchanged glances, panic rising, hands trembling, as the question hung in the air, a dark storm beckoning them to cross the line. Would they barter away fragments of their being for a chance at salvation? The clock continued to tick, each second counting down toward an unthinkable choice. In that suspended moment, Jenna felt a surge of resolve. "No," she cried, more fiercely than she thought possible, "there must be another way." But before she could offer an alternative, the figure roared, a sound that shook the rafters, drowning out her voice. "Then you will face the consequences alone." The shadows surged, and the townsfolk reeled back as the church trembled with uncertainty, the light from the altar flickering violently. What choice would they make? And who would bear the weight of the darkness encroaching ever closer? Jenna grasped David's hand, her heart racing faster than ever. "We can't let this happen," she urged, but the walls closed in, and she could feel the gravity of the looming decision weighing on their souls. With the church still trembling and the silhouette darkening, only one thing was certain: something was about to break. Would they stand united, or would fear tear them apart? The air snapped with tension, each heartbeat echoing as Jenna's eyes darted around the room. Fear wrapped itself around her like a shroud. David's grip on her hand was tight, as if anchoring her to this reality, this nightmare. The figure loomed, its wings unfurling wider, enveloping them in a cocoon of shimmering dread. "Face the darkness," it commanded, the very walls of the church vibrating with the sinister energy of its call. "Show me your resolve. Who will sacrifice for the others?" Murmurs began to swell among the townsfolk again, whispers of fear and doubt weaving through the crowd like an infection. Some stepped backward, faces pale, while others clenched their fists defiantly. It was a tableau of chaos, a storm brewing in the hearts of those who had once stood together. Jenna felt her throat constrict. She couldn't let fear dictate their fate. "No!" she shouted, her voice slicing through the rising panic. "This is not what we wanted. We don't need an angel of death to save us." "Ah, but you do, dear child," the figure retorted, a glimmer of sharp amusement resonating in its voice. "You misunderstand the nature of sacrifice. To gain, you must first lose." The shadows flickered, then danced around Jenna, pulling at her very essence. She felt as if tendrils were trying to burrow into her skin, searching for cracks in her resolve. But she couldn't yield. Not now. She took a breath, grounding herself. "We can find another way. We are stronger together. We can fight this darkness without losing who we are." The entity paused, the shadows coiling tighter still. It considered her, its presence pulsing with a strange curiosity, an otherworldly shimmer filtering through the air. "You offer unity. But how do you plan to unite against the dark that festers within?" "The greatest battles are fought in the mind, dear girl." Jenna could hear the quivers in David's breath, the rustling of clothing as those around them shifted uneasily. A flicker of rebellion began to spark in the hearts of some. She could see it in their eyes. They exchanged glances, wrestling internally with the weight of their fears versus the hope of saving their home. Could she be their rallying cry? The thought hung in the air, fragile yet electrifying. "We can confront what haunts us. Together," she pressed on, her voice gaining strength. "We have fought alongside one another before against the storms and the shadows of our past. This isn't the end, it's the beginning. We just need hope." But the figure recoiled slightly, disdain etched in the shifting shadows surrounding it. "Hope does little in the face of true fear. Your town is fated for destruction. You," it turned, addressing the others, "will waste your gifts. Embrace your terror, it is the only power you possess." As Jenna faced the entity, she could feel the weight of the townsfolk's expectations, their fear sowing seeds of doubt in her heart. "Our pain doesn't define us," she shouted, desperation spilling into her voice. "We can break free from this curse." A ripple of unease rippled through the line of her neighbors. Some were beginning to nod, faces alight with cautious defiance. They were tired of being afraid, tired of hiding. Suddenly, a voice broke through the hesitant whispers. "We are worth more than our fears." It was an elder, standing tall against the shadows, courage igniting in their chest. "Exactly." Jenna seized the moment. "We will face our darkness together." But the figure did not back down. "Then know this, if you choose this path, your sacrifices will echo in ways you cannot imagine. You will lose more than you are willing to give." The specter loomed larger, shadows swirling like a storm ready to unleash its fury. Jenna's heart thundered. "We accept the risks," she cried, feeling a unified roar swell in her chest. With a roar of its own, the being shook the very foundation of the church. "So be it." It thundered, and with those words, the atmosphere shifted. The walls pulsed, rattling with unseen energy. Something monumental was about to unfold. And in that fateful silence that followed, what cost would their newfound courage demand? Would they awaken truly emboldened, or were they unleashing a darkness they could not contain? A deafening silence enveloped the church, as if the world was holding its breath. Jenna felt a shudder run through her body. The pulsing shadows intensified, swirling around her and the townsfolk, thickening the air with palpable dread. The entity's presence loomed like a storm cloud hanging heavy over them, ready to crack open. "Gather your strength, people," Jenna shouted, her heart racing. "Do not let it define our worth." Each word was filled with desperation, fighting against the encroaching darkness. Her gaze darted among the fearful faces now lit with a flicker of defiance. She could see it, the hope sparking within them, igniting like dry leaves, but the figure seemed amused, its voice dripping with malice. "Strength? Oh, how quaint. Strength without understanding is like a candle in a tempest. You cannot fight what you cannot see, child. The true horror begins with acceptance." Jenna's heart quickened. She understood now, the monsters were not only behind them, but also within them. She could feel the tremors ripple through the congregation, their fears surfacing, memories clawing their way into the light. Faces twisted with fleeting images of loss, anger, and pain, each memory draped around their shoulders like a heavy cloak. "Look deep," Jenna called, her voice echoing in the gloom. "Do not shy away from your pain. Embrace it. This is our history, our strength." She could feel David's hand squeezing hers tighter as he nodded, determination swelling in her chest. The specter's shadows curled, flickering erratically as if testing Jenna's words. "Yes, let them surface," it breathed, delight shimmering through its voice. "What will you offer to silence them? Lives? Secrets? Lives are a currency rich with sorrow, and I can smell your desperation." Dread filled Jenna. Each breath tasted of ash and fear, but she pushed through it. "We refuse to let fear guide our choices." Her stomach churned, a tight knot threatening to strangle her resolve. "We will not barter our souls for safety. We stand as one." The townspeople began to murmur, tentative whispers, but she felt it, a swell of energy rising among them. It ignited their spirits, drawing them together as they exchanged glances of solidarity. A flicker of hope glowing where darkness had once threatened to consume. "Then let us see who among you is truly worth saving." The figure hissed, its voice thunderous, reverberating through the walls until the stained glass rattled ominously. "I will grant you power, but in exchange you must give me something valuable." Cold shivers raced down Jenna's spine. "What do you want?" She spat, defiance edging her words. A cruel smile danced through the darkness. "One volunteer, one who can bear the cost of your rebellion. They shall sacrifice themselves, a price for the chance to rid your town of the shadows haunting it." Gasps echoed from the crowd like the sound of breaking glass. Jenna's heart plummeted, a visceral fear gripping her throat. They couldn't do that. Not here. Not after finding strength in unity. Who? The terrifying question hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Jenna's eyes darted to the faces surrounding her. Who would step up to this twisted bargain? Suddenly, the walls throbbed again, the entity pressing closer, shadows folding in like claws ready to grasp. Time is running out, it growled. Make your decision, or the darkness will take more than you've ever dreamed possible. With panic rising, Jenna clutched David's hand tighter. We can't. But deep down, she could feel the shards of fear breaking away, replaced by a chilling resolve. But now, each heartbeat echoed a question: who among them would take the step into darkness, risking everything for light? And could they survive the reckoning that was about to unfold? The air crackled, thick with tension, as Jenna scanned the faces of those who once felt like family. Their expressions were a kaleidoscope of fear, confusion, and an unsettling curiosity. Would any of them truly step forward, willing to gamble their life to alter the fate of their town? She wanted to scream at them to reconsider, yet a part of her understood the weight of their desperation. Time is up. The figure roared, its voice laced with a predatory excitement. Choose, or watch as your lives unravel one by one. The darkness hungers. Jenna felt a shiver crawl up her spine. She glanced at David, heart pounding. We can't let this happen, she urged, eyes pleading, desperate for a solution. His face paled, but he wouldn't abandon her. In that moment, a voice from the back called out, trembling but clear. I will do it. The crowd turned as a frail woman stepped into the flickering light, a grandmotherly figure, eyes bright with resolve. No. Jenna leapt forward, her voice raw. You don't have to. But the woman raised a shaking hand, her expression steady. It's time for me to do something brave. I've lost enough, she whispered, voice cracking, but unwavering. My children, my husband. If this can save my town, then I'll give what little I have left. The entity chuckled, an ominous sound like rustling leaves in an autumn storm. Ah, a willing sacrifice, how delightful. You see, children, fear can be harnessed, but sacrifice? Sacrifice is pure. Jenna's breath hitched. Please, reconsider. But the words felt useless against the increasing tension swirling around them. With a heavy heart, Jenna turned to the townsfolk, now wide-eyed and uncertain. Is this what we want? To lose one of our own? They should not carry this burden alone. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some shook their heads, while others remained silent, paralyzed by the entity's looming presence. Jenna steeled herself, grounding her thoughts. Together, we can find another way. We are stronger than this darkness. We can enough. The entity bellowed, shadows swirling angrily. This is your brink. Embrace the sacrifice or be consumed. The pulsating energy filled the air, a suffocating weight pressing down on Jenna's chest. She could see the grandmother step closer to the figure, a fragile silhouette against the enormity of the darkness. In a desperate bid, Jenna grasped David's arm. We have to distract it. If we can disrupt its hold, maybe we can buy time. David's eyes widened with urgency. How? Together, we can amplify our voices, remind everyone of their value, of their strength. Fear won't define us. With a shaky breath, she shouted to the crowd, know your worth. You are more than your past, your pain. Stand with me. The townsfolk shifted, some stepping forward, igniting sparks of bravery as they echoed her words. We stand together. We refuse this darkness. The figure hissed, and the shadows pulsed in an angry flicker. Insignificant children, your voices mean nothing against my hunger. But something shifted in the air, a crackle of hope sparking as the townsfolk wrapped their hands around one another, forming a chain of connected hearts, a web of defiance. Step back. Jenna screamed, shielding the grandmother with her body. We will not sacrifice our own. We will fight. The shadow shrieked, the air thickening as the figure recoiled, its laughter now tinged with desperation. You think you can resist? Yes. They cried in unison, the walls vibrating with resolve, but as the shadows retreated, Jenna felt an ominous pulse. The entity that had threatened for so long was not yet gone. What if this is just the beginning? She wondered, heart racing. A looming dread filled the church as the air twisted with a new tension. If one sacrifice was refused, what other cost must they face? Find out what you're truly willing to lose, it whispered, a promise laced with malice. And with every heartbeat, Jenna knew the fight was far from over. Something much worse was coming. What price would they have to pay to silence the darkness once and for all? The shadows throbbed against the church walls, the air humming with suppressed screams. Jenna felt the energy shift, a coldness creeping back in like an unwelcome tide. The townsfolk were still gripping each other's hands, their determination palpable, but doubt began to seep into their resolve. Is this really over? Someone murmured, a young man with tears in his eyes. What if the darkness lies in wait? Jenna turned to him, heart racing as she realized the truth. We've only pushed it back. It will find another way, it always does. A chill ran down her spine as she remembered its words, lurking like a predator, always hungry for despair. Then we fight harder. David shouted, voice cutting through the heavy silence. A few nodded, but others exchanged worried glances, clearly wrestling with their choices. Jenna took a deep breath, pushing through the lingering fear. What we felt just now was power. The power of us being together. Her mind raced. We need to find out what this entity wants. It thrives on our pain and fear, but there must be a way to turn it against itself. Are you saying we can use that against it? David asked, brows furrowed in thought. Yes. It feeds on our fears, our regrets. What if we expose it? What if we show it that we aren't afraid anymore? Jenna's voice grew stronger with each word, the flickering candle flames reflecting the newfound fire in her spirit. One by one, their voices grew louder, stronger, a thunderous anthem of defiance filling the church. We refuse to be afraid. We are more than our sacrifices, more than our losses. As they chanted, the shadows began to writhe, shifting unnaturally, the entity growing restless. Fools! It screeched, echoing through the chamber like a storm. Your delusions of strength will lead to your destruction. Jenna's heart quickened. We can't give in. It's trying to break us. Remember why you're here. You want to protect your loved ones. You want to reclaim what was taken. She felt the heat of passion radiating through her, her hands trembling with energy. The crowd spirit surged again, voices swelling in unity. We are not alone. We will fight for our families. We will fight for our home. Suddenly, an unnatural darkness exploded through the church, a suffocating wave that pushed them back. Jenna stumbled but held on to David, her resolve setting like iron. They can't break us. She gasped amidst the oppressive pressure. In the chaos, Jenna's gaze shot across the room, landing on the grandmother who had almost stepped forward to sacrifice herself. The woman stood trembling but resolute, a flicker of hope igniting within her weary eyes. Stand with us. Jenna implored, pointing. We need everyone. Every heart, every voice. You've endured so much, and your pain is a part of our strength. The grandmother's shoulders squared, her voice rising above the din. I've lost everything, but it won't be in vain. We fight for those who can't fight anymore. As she spoke, an electric pulse rippled through the crowd. Those who once wavered transformed, anger and determination overtaking fear. The shadows twisted in response, attempting to snuff out their unity. Now! Jenna cried, holding out her arms, filled with determination. Let every scar and sorrow echo louder than the darkness. Let it quake at the sound of who we are. Her voice rang through the church as the gathered townsfolk closed their eyes, focusing on the figure looming before them, the very embodiment of their fears. And in that moment, something shifted. Your heartbeats, they resonate with such delicious despair, the entity wheezed, lingering shadows flickering like dying embers. But you will pay the price. Jenna felt dread seep back in. What now? She thought, throat tightening at the implications. Just as the shadows tightened around them, an unexpected light ignited from the center of their circle, a beacon of hope that seemed to pulse with every heartbeat. What is this? The entity hissed, its voice laced with a newfound panic. When Jenna caught David's gaze, she felt an overwhelming sense of urgency mixed with an undeniable flame of purpose. Whatever it is, it cannot hold us. They needed to seize this moment, before all hope drowned in the shadows. But could they harness this light to face the darkness once and for all? An oppressive crack split the air, signaling the start of a fight they never prepared for. What lay beyond that crack, and how would they use their flickering hope to confront the wrath that was coming? The crack widened, like the breaking dawn fracturing the night sky. Jenna squinted, trying to see through the chaotic blur of shadows and light. The energy crackled around them, humming with potential. The townsfolk, pressing closer together, seemed to merge with the radiant glow that had burst forth from their collective spirit. Do not dim, do not waver. Jenna shouted, feeling the surge of warmth envelop her. She could see faces lighting with resolve, disbelief shifting into determination as the brilliance spread outwards. Fight! David screamed, his voice splintering through the ambience that felt alive, crackling like static. The message struck fire in everyone's hearts. They were no longer passive victims. They stood as warriors, ready to harness their unity against the insatiable darkness. Breathe into this light. Jenna urged, her voice steady, mesmerizing. Let every soul know its worth. Let every heartbeat pulse with courage. The otherworldly entity writhed, seething at the glow that surged like molten gold, the shadows tearing at its edges. You think you're powerful? You are nothing. It screeched, the air around them trembling with malice. But the darkness thrives on the fear we relinquished. Jenna shot back, breathing in the pulsing energy. This was the moment they had fought for, a moment of clarity amidst chaos. Your threats are empty now. We are stronger, united. The townsfolk echoed her fervor. Stronger. United. They chanted, a fierce tide growing louder, drowning out the creature's poisonous words. Fear was their past, now, they were alive with purpose, clinging to one another with white-knuckled grasp. Above them, the shadows sparked and flickered, dark tendrils pulsing against the light. Jenna felt the warmth ebb and flow. She closed her eyes for a split second, opening her heart to whatever came next. Let us show this thing what we're truly made of. Just as the chant broke through the air, a deafening roar erupted from the entity. No! I will take what is mine. Darkness spiraled, swirling in a whirlwind of fury, clawing at their sanctuary. Her heart raced. Jenna knew they had to stand their ground. Together. In a sudden burst of synchronized breaths, the townsfolk lifted their hands, pushing their collective will towards that piercing light. It soared upwards, illuminating the church in radiant glory that swallowed the darkness, pushing it back, forcing the shadows to retreat. The entity shrieked, its form distorting, a silhouette writhing in agony. I am bound to you. You think you are free? You are my creation. Jenna felt the hairs on her arms prickling as she sensed its desperation. It was afraid. We are more. She called out. You cannot shape us like clay. We define our fate. Just then, the warmth surged, swelling like a tidal wave toward the creature. Fear gripped her. What if they failed? Would the entity recoil, or would it lash out, desperate to cling to its power? I need you. She shouted, voice echoing. The townsfolk recited her cry, a chorus of strength. We are. We are. We are. Suddenly, cracks shot through the shadows like lightning. The entity howled and strained as waves of hope cascaded over it, inundating it in a blinding light. Jenna watched in awe as the darkness trembled. But a deep, lingering chill slithered around her heart. A dread whisper curled in the back of her mind. What if overcoming this darkness meant unleashing something far worse? The light flared brighter, illuminating every corner of the church, as the shadows finally recoiled. Yet, in the shimmering glow, Jenna caught a glimpse of something else forming at the edge of their circle. "Wait," she breathed. "What is that?" The new presence flickered, its shape indistinct but menacing. "Do not let it distract you," David shouted, his voice full of urgency. "Focus on the light." Yet as the townsfolk strained to retain their grip, the flickering shadow took form, revealing a sinister face glimmering with twisted familiarity. A thought sent ice through her veins, a connection she had not foreseen, one that laid itself across the very depth of her being. "Help me," the voice whispered, slithering like a snake through the air. Jenna's heart sank as she realized they had unveiled something far more dangerous than the darkness itself. What true intentions could this new shadow want? "We have to," she started, but the chant of the townsfolk now faded, all eyes shifted to the newly revealed menace. What waited in the shadows? Was it not just the darkness they feared, but a truth that could fracture their very hope? "Stand firm," she shouted, though her voice trembled with uncertainty. But would their light withstand this new threat? Or would the flickering fragments of hope extinguish under its weight? The flickering shadow swirled in a dance of chaotic elegance, the faces around Jenna twisted by confusion and fear. She took a step closer, squinting against the overwhelming brightness that threatened to consume her, yet she felt an unexpected connection to the presence that emerged from the darkness. "Who are you?" Jenna called out, her voice hoarse but steady, slicing through the air. "What do you want?" The figure twisted, its features forming like smoke giving meaning to the void. In an instant, she recognized the high cheekbones and haunting gaze. It was her mother. The very woman who had once cradled her as a child, now a murky specter caught between realms. "Jenna," the apparition whispered, a familiar echo that filled her with longing. "You must listen." Jenna stumbled back, her heart racing. "No. You're not real. You're a trick." She felt the doubt creep in, a cold hand grasping her heart, a flood of memories washing over her. Laughter, stories told by a fire, the warmth of those safe nights before the shadows descended. "Jenna, please," the figure cried, voice trembling with desperate urgency. "I am still here. I can help you defeat this darkness." Around her, the townsfolk murmured, their faces flickering between hope and terror. David shook his head in disbelief. "Don't listen to it. It's trying to break us." His shout pierced through the collective whispering like the clarion call of doom, but the apparition took a step forward. "I emerged from the shadows you fear. I can wield the darkness, guide you through. Trust me." The tensions in the air thickened. Jenna felt as if the weight of 1,000 gazes pinned her in place, hearts hanging on her every decision. What was she supposed to believe? The darkness behind her was palpable, and now this light, twisted by familiarity, asked for her trust. "Do you remember the stories I told you?" The figure pressed. "They contain the key. The only way to seal it." Jenna fought against the urge to believe. How could she trust something that emerged from the depths of despair? Yet her mother's voice held warmth, the kind that used to envelop her on chilly nights. "I don't have to be your enemy," it continued, icy clarity entwined with recollection. "You just have to speak my name." At that moment, a roar echoed, grounding them all back in the immediate clash of light and dark. The entity writhed, sensing the shift, malignancy thrumming against the vibrant glow. "Foolish girl. You think family ties can save you? I will devour you whole." "Jenna, don't listen." David's plea was louder now, harsh and desperate against the crescendo of chaos. "We can do this without it. The light is our strength, not this." He glanced at the shadow, his expression earnest yet tinged with horror. "Remember that night in the garden? The figure urged, extending a hand, transparent yet full of life. When I told you of the spirit tree and the strength within? Your heart holds that power. Conjure it. Jenna's heart raced. The moment slipped away as she wrestled with her fears. Her mother was here, or was she? The line between the familiar past and this moment of terror blurred and darkened. Find your faith in what you hold dear, whispered the echo of encouragement, weaving through Jenna's spirit. I can't. She shouted, wavering. The townsfolk shifted, caught in the tension of belief and betrayal. The shadowed figure drew closer, breathless despite its spectral form. You must. Suddenly, the church shook as the monstrous entity roared with frustration, clawing at the fading light, battling against the unity they forged. Jenna felt her strength quaking, slowly teetering into uncertainty, horror bubbling in her chest. What's our choice, Jenna? Fight together or fall apart? David shouted, eyes aflame with determination, yet tearing with fear. As she looked between the luminous glow of the townspeople and the darkness threatening to engulf them, a question loomed. What price would she pay for trust? Make the choice. The weight of their fates pressed in on her. She closed her eyes, feeling the throbbing presence of both love and dread. What if she embraced it all? Would she shatter into pieces, or become whole again? Would she unleash a darker force or liberate them all? Now, the shadow urged, pulling at her essence, a bittersweet invitation to remember, and with one breath, Jenna poised to make her decision, forever altering their battle against the encroaching night. What would her choice reveal amidst the chaos? The atmosphere was electric, hanging thick with suspense. Jenna stood at the precipice of choice, a moment where everything could shatter or come together. Her pulse quickened, a frantic rhythm in sync with the tempest surrounding them. The townsfolk looked to her, hope shimmering in their eyes, desperation etched in their features. Would they falter? Would they stand together? Could she truly find strength within those beautiful, fragile hearts? I will not let you take them. She screamed, locking eyes with the dark figure before her. This is my town, these are my people. We stand together. We fight together. The entity roared, an unearthly sound clawing in her ears. You cannot resist me. You are nothing. Empty shells begging to be filled. Its shadows lunged at them, thick tendrils wrapping around the warm glow, trying to bind and extinguish it. Jenna reached deep into herself. Memories flowed through her like a river, laughter shared, warm sunny days spent dancing in the wind, the quiet embrace of her mother's love. But now that love shadowed against a hidden pain. Mother, she whispered, feeling the aching connection. You chose to protect me. You chose love over fear. I will not let this darkness take away what we built. Her voice grew louder, emboldened by renewed resolve. I will not let my pain define me. Instead, I choose to embrace our light. As the vibrant flame of her friends swelled around her like a shield, Jenna knew she could shape their destiny. Spirit tree, guide me. She hurled her words, each syllable laden with ancient strength. Protect your own. Your roots run deep in our hearts. The apparition shuddered, the shadows thrashing violently in response. The entity's laughter morphed into wild fury, seething against the light that encroached steadily upon it. You think your memories hold power? They are just echoes of what has already been lost. But even as it taunted, a warm glow instilled courage within the townsfolk. Together, they cried, their voices rising in unison, a roaring tide of defiance against the caging darkness. A brilliant pulse erupted from the heart of their unity, merging with Jenna's fervor. The shadows recoiled, stinging against the purity of their combined hopes and dreams. It was a dance of contrasting forces, and in this moment, Jenna felt their strength intertwine, a dazzling flame pushing back the void. As the shadows trembled, she glimpsed her mother's face, the glow of home flickering just behind the tendrils of darkness. You can save us. You must show the love you hold. Jenna inhaled deeply, summoning every ounce of belief, every scrap of pride in her community. Face the darkness. Don't let it consume you. The walls of the church vibrated with energy that felt like thunder, an echo of the truth pulsing from their hearts, igniting the very foundations of what they fought for. Her mother's figure dissolved momentarily but returned stronger, guiding Jenna's vision. Remember all who fought for you, Jenna. The shadows are weakened by love. Real love. With a fierce cry, Jenna pushed forward, unleashing the strength behind her words. We are countless. The essence of our truth. Our love will not yield. Your time is over. With this final breath echoing through the holy space, a blinding beam erupted forth, radiating from the very core of their united spirits. Luminous light pierced the entity, unraveling its menacing form. The shadows screamed, twisting and contorting like flame beneath ice, until in a flash, the darkness was swallowed whole, engulfed by the purity of their resolve. A heavy stillness fell upon the church, the air vibrating with the remnants of their clash. Light illuminated the room, transforming the dim spaces into a sanctuary of hope, weaving warmth into every shadowed corner where fear had once thrived. Jenna gasped, awash with a flood of relief and light. Tired faces turned toward her, and she felt the energy shift. The weight of the darkness had lifted. They had done it. They had faced their fears together and had emerged victorious. But then a muffled voice whispered from the recesses. Are you sure it's really over? Jenna turned, eyes searching. A lingering shadow rippled just beyond the walls, a reminder of the past that would never fully disappear. We stand together, David reassured her, clasping her hand again. We will not let it define us again. This day is ours, Jenna. With that, as the townsfolk enveloped one another in hugs and joyous laughter, she felt something buried deep wake within her. It sparkled, an ember igniting into jubilation and strength. They had conquered the darkness, and in doing so, had learned that their bonds held the power to shape their destinies. Jenna knew they had kindled something priceless, a promise to always fight for each other, to embrace every flaw, every crack, and to rise from the ashes hand in hand. As dawn broke, spilling golden light through the stained glass, Jenna allowed a warm smile to spread across her face. The future stretched before them, a new chapter yet unwritten, filled with the promise of more light than shadows, and as the townspeople cheered, they all knew the story had changed their story together. But now, dear viewers, this is the moment you need to act. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next thrilling exclusive adventures. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm so we can keep unfolding these incredible tales. Flood the comments section with your reactions and your theories about this epic conclusion, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this story wraps up. This is your time to show your support. Only true fans understand the importance of backing our journey forward.